I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joybaking.com. Today we're going to make candy cane cookies, and this is what they look like. As you can see, they're pretty cool looking. They do look like candy canes, and they have this wonderfully sweet and buttery flavor and crisp yet tender texture. So to make our batter, if you have a stand mixer like I have here, use your paddle attachment. You could use a hand mixer, or really for this batter, you could just have a large bowl with either a wooden spoon or a spatula. The first thing that you will need is 1 cup. These are, as I said, buttery sweet. 1 cup, which is 225 grams of butter. Have your butter at room temperature. I like to use unsalted butter, but if you have a favorite salted butter, you could use that. And then just leave out the salt in the recipe. So just put that right in there. And then you will need 1 cup, which is 120 grams of confectioner sugar, also known as powdered or icing sugar. Put that right in there, sticking a little. And then we're going to beat this just until everything's creamy and smooth, mixed together. You might want to start, especially with powdered sugar, you might want to start on low speed because you don't want that sugar coming up in your face. Okay, so when you're mixing it, especially the butter and sugar, periodically stop, scrape down the sides and bottom of your bowl. You want to make sure everything gets mixed together. So now what we're going to do, this is an enriched dough. We're going to add 2 large egg yolks, and you want your egg yolks at room temperature. That's about, 32 grams. And I'm going to add 1 teaspoon, 4 grams of pure vanilla extract. And then I'm adding a 1/2 teaspoon, 2 grams of pure almond extract. Now, I know we're making candy cane cookies, so if you want a peppermint flavored cookie, you could add, instead of the almond extract, you could add a 1/2 teaspoon of peppermint extract. I made it both ways, and they're both good, but as you can see, I do prefer the almond extract. But if you want peppermint, go ahead and just use that peppermint instead of almond. So I'll give you a choice there. So I'm just going to mix that in. Okay, easy enough. So next we need our flour. So you will need 2.5 cups, which is 325 grams of all-purpose flour, plain flour. And to that I'm adding just 1/4 teaspoon, 1 gram of salt. I'm using a kosher salt, you could use a table salt. And like I said, if you use salted butter, I would just leave that salt out because you get enough salt in the butter. So I'm just gonna mix that in. So add that and have your mixer on low speed at first. And then we're just going to beat this until everything's mixed together. We are done. Well, almost done. Because as you can see, we have 2 colored doughs there. So what I'm going to do, but we're only making 1 batter. So I'm going to remove 1/2 of this batter. Now, 2 ways. If you have a scale, which I highly recommend, you can measure out 350 grams. If you don't have a scale, then what I would do is I would take it all out, and then you're going to have to eyeball it. So this is a good time to get a scale. So 350 grams. Or thereabouts. Okay, that's about right. I don't know about you, but I find a scale and just measuring out a lot easier than eyeballing. Maybe it's just me, but I'm not very good at that. So now, to the rest of our batter that's in here, we're going to color it red. So, wipe my hands. There's two ways you can color the dough. You can use a liquid, or you can use a gel paste. I'm going to use the gel paste. I mean, they're both the same. You can use, I'm going to say, about a half a teaspoon of, if you're using the liquid red, or if you're using this gel paste, it's more concentrated. So I'm going to use about a quarter. Of course, you know, mine aren't really dark red. So if you want a real dark red candy cane, then, well, maybe I'll leave that on. Then you might need more. Careful with this stuff. Turn everything red, your fingers. Okay, that's why I have a plate there, just so when I get my counter. Especially this gel, it's really concentrated. So I'm going to start with that. You can always add a little more, and we'll see what it looks like. Remember, when you're coloring a batter and then going to bake it off, the color does fade a little with baking. So just if you look at it and you think that's exactly what I want, you might want to add a little more because of the fading. Let's mix that in. Okay, we are done. I think that's bright enough. Like I said, they were like not quite red, but if you want to add more, you can. So now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to scrape this in another bowl. I'm just going to clean up here, and when we come back, we will form our candy canes. Okay, so now we are ready to form our cookies. So you will need a baking sheet. I've lined mine with parchment paper, or you could just lightly butter it. And so, as you can see, I've already formed some. So you will need a little bit. Okay, this is when, again, I'll plug the scale. If you have a digital scale, it makes it really easy. You will need 15 grams of batter for each one. So I will show you. They say that's about the size of a walnut. I'll just give you a reference point. If you don't have a scale, this tablespoon, if I put it in there, that's about what I've got. The important thing is, of course, is that you could make them bigger or smaller, but long as each one is the same size. So that's why I like a scale, because I can really get precise, which I like. So I'm going to take, and normally what I do is I put 6 on a baking sheet, so I'll get 6 of the white and then 6 of the red, so I don't have to be doing it each time. But since I've already got them all done. Then, what I like to do for this size, this amount of dough, is I'm going to roll this into a 5-inch long rope. So, what I do, because I don't want to you can get your ruler out every time. I put some tape on here, and that's 5 inches. So then I don't have to have my ruler there. But the important thing, again, is that each one is the same size, same length. So how you do it, this is just my little way I've done it. And then I'm just rolling it between my fingers. Now with this counter, I don't find I want to flour my counter. But, see, this rolls really good for me to make a rope. And then see, I can just put that there. And then, and I find when you're doing a lot, periodically I have to wipe my counter off and then dry it off. But this is fine. And if your dough, if your batter is really soft, then refrigerate it or pop it in the freezer for a couple minutes. If you find it's breaking up, see now this, so I'm just gonna make them the same length. If you're not getting a nice even, like a rope, if it's kind of cracking, then the batter's probably a little warm. So just pop it in the refrigerator or for half an hour, or the freezer for like 5-10 minutes. So just put them together, make sure they're kind of fused together, and then pick them up. And then I'm just going to twirl them as much or as little as you want your candy cane shape. Again, if you find kind of cracks, you can just kind of push it together. So you just twist, 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 and then a little hook at the top. I'm going to do them all that way. Do it the other way. Turn them over. So there, I'm happy with that. I think they're so cute. So now we've been working the batter. It's a little soft. So what I'm going to do is put this into the refrigerator to chill them, because we want them to keep their shape. And if it's too soft, there's a tendency when you get them in the oven to spread, which we don't want. So I'm going to put these in the fridge, and then I'm going to, meanwhile, I would say at least, 10-15 minutes. You do it longer, but at least 10-15 minutes. While I preheat my oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 190 degrees Celsius. So that's what I'm going to do, and when we come back, we will bake them off. Okay, so we are ready. They're nice and chilled. I did forget to say, Rick said, 5 inches, for those using the metric, is 12.5 centimeters. So to bake these, I'm going to say it's probably around 10 minutes. Everyone's oven is a little different. And it also depends, how much did you chill this? If you left it in longer, your pan's going to be really cold and your cookie's going to be really cold, so it may take a little longer than if they weren't as cold. So keep that in mind. But what you're looking for, they will be set and they'll be just starting to brown around the outside edges. That's how you can kind of tell. You see lightly tinged, especially you can tell on the white dough. And I do like to rotate my baking sheet front to back about halfway through to get an even bake. So I'm going to say about 10 minutes. Okay, so put your pan on a wire rack, and I don't know whether you can see, they're just starting to brown around the outside edges. That's how I like them. Of course, the longer you bake them, the more crisp they will be. Now, these are quite fragile right now, so what I'm going to let them cool like this for probably at least 10 minutes, and then I'll use my spatula to transfer them over to a wire rack to finish cooling. So, we'll do that. When we come back, we will try one. Okay, so let's try one. I hate to almost eat one because they look so cute, but somebody's got to do it. Oh. They're kind of crisp on the outside, yet they're very tender. They kind of melt in your mouth. And of course, buttery sweet with a little almond flavor. Now, I do find with these cookies, the flavor, like when you first bake them off, like now, the flavor, if you store them overnight, that almond flavor tends to come out a little more. So if you notice and you kind of eat them like now and kind of go, oh, I should have used a little more almond extract, wait like a day, because the flavor really develops with these cookies. And the same if you didn't want to use the almond extract, you wanted to use the peppermint extract, same thing. I don't know, it just seems to take a day for that flavor to come out. Now these, of course, perfect for Christmas. I mean, what could be more perfect? They do You could store them at room temperature 7 to 10 days, or they freeze beautifully. So it's something that you could make ahead of time. My dog, Carrie, is right here on me. Want some? Mom, cookie. So you could freeze them for a month or two. I mean, it's just a perfect cookie. Great for gift giving. Kids will like it with a glass of milk, parents with a cup of tea or coffee. So you must try these. And until next time, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joybaking.com.